Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Draw with T. We are doing more digital art today, and we are working on yet another Christmas card. So as you saw in a previous episode, I was doing thumbnails for this. This is a redo of a very, very old card I did, a very dear card to me, of the first time I ever drew Derpydeer, which is the first time I ever did a Christmas card, back in 2010 for my family. You can see a picture of the card in question, the original version, up there in the left-hand side of the screen. And yeah, so basically what I'm doing here is I really like the tiny little sketch that I did, a little thumbnail doodle from my sketchbook. So I just grabbed that, popped it in a pre-made size file, 5x7, with a bleed and a slug, I believe, added, or maybe just a border for my reference. A little pro tip, if you guys haven't worked in print before and you're interested in doing Christmas cards and you want to get them printed, you're going to have to consider bleed and your border. So what a bleed is, and yeah, there's a bleed and a slug, and unfortunately I don't know quite the difference, but basically your bleed is short for bleed over, and basically to get your art to go right to the edge, the printer has to chop off a very small amount of it on all angles. So you don't want anything important in that, I believe it's 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch. I'm not very good with inches, and I don't remember what the millimeter measurement is, but basically you need to add a little bit of extra art all around the border with the anticipation that that's going to get chopped off. When you're doing design for print, you need to know the safe space, quote-unquote safe space, and that tends to be about a 1/2 inch inside from the border. That's not including the slug or the bleed. So you have your bleed and then you add an extra like 1/2 inch, and that's your safe zone. So even if the printer, because human error and machine error, the card might shift just a tiny bit, like a 1/16 of an inch or something. And if your words are right on the edge of the bleed, you might suddenly lose a 1/4 inch, or maybe less than a 1/4 inch, but you'll lose a little bit of your design. I think modern printers have gotten a lot better about that. I've never personally had bleed or issues with my cards coming out wonky or anything I've done coming out wonky, but I also play it safe, so you want to make sure your designs are safely, I'd say minimum 1/2 inch, more if you can, within your card design or whatever print design you're doing. I actually, if I remember correctly, I actually come back into this file later when I'm getting my cards ready to print, because the place I get them printed at doesn't account for a bleed. So it takes, it says 5x7 cards, but they're actually a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch less, because they just chop the bleed off of that. So I'll actually come back in and shrink the card by that measurement. But I like to work like this just so I kind of have an idea of the spots I can work with and what I need to leave open. Anyways, that's a lot of technical talk. I'm drawing a reindeer, sketching a reindeer. So as you saw, I took the base sketch on the left there and traced over it a bit and started editing it a bit. And now I've kind of got the deer in the box. Now I'm gonna struggle a whole lot with trying to put a beautiful bow on this box while also having the antlers of Derpydeer here sticking through and looking kind of comical. You can see there's kind of like a little frayed edge where the horns have popped through the box. Sorry, antlers. I know there's going to be somebody who's kind of pedantic about that. Probably going to be me. And the problem I was having was bigger horns tend to be less cute. But I needed bigger horns to kind of go past the lines of the bow, just so that everybody would be pretty clear that those are antlers and not some funny weird thing with the bow. So then I'm like, well, maybe I'll put the bow down here actually, and I won't have a bow up here. And then I thought that looks really strange. No. The good bow that I drew down there, really nice bow, admiring it. Turn it off. No. Bow on top of the gift, that's what we're going with, just because it's cute and it almost looks like it's sitting on top of Derpy's head and it's like a bow on her head, just really cute. So I just left that as is, and I'm like, you know what, good enough. It's 80 to 90% there, so let's add Merry Christmas to it. The last card I worked on was the Krampus card, which I used this kind of edgy, cartoony font for, so, you know, I'm going to change it here in a sec, but first and foremost, I just wanted to get the layout kind of correct, and I thought, well, maybe I'll put it up here, kind of like the classic card where, you know, I have Merry Christmas up there in the left. Usually I like to stick my Merry Christmas in, like, an object in the card, and I like to handwrite the font. I might still handwrite this one, but since I didn't have anything in mind for the type of handwriting I wanted it to look like, I just decided to grab some, you know, some pleasing font, you know, and then later I could come back and kind of trace where that font was and change it how I'd like and make it a little bit more natural. But yeah, so here I'm just kind of fiddling around, trying to figure out, do I want Derpydeer to take up the entire art? The entire canvas, or do I want there to be some hint of a tree, like, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, let's maybe try and add the tree and the gifts, but of course at the angle I've drawn her at, you don't really see the ground, so you wouldn't see the trunk of the tree, and with so much going on and it being so zoomed in, it'd be really hard for me to draw the bottom of the tree in any sort of understandable detail. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Let's put some gifts in. We'll deal with the tree here in a sec. You know, find the easiest thing to kind of make a point of reference. So, you know, then I did this, and it kind of worked. You know, just kind of having this tree shape, and I kind of worried, well, maybe people won't understand it's a tree. Maybe it's just too abstract in the background. And I thought, well, you know, let's make Derpy bigger. Let's do this. And these cyan guidelines that I have just kind of help me, you know, figure out what my slug/bleed is, and where the border is, and where the center is, because that's important, because I do a lot of kind of centered cards, you know, where the subject's in the center. And then here I'm just kind of, you know, maybe I'll put the Merry Christmas in the gift, which is, you know, I like that. That's gives the design some more headroom. And also does something with that bottom of the gift, which just kind of didn't really do much of anything. So yeah, now I'm just, you know, fiddling with the font, making it kind of the same color as everything else, for no reason other than just so it didn't stand out and keep catching my eye while I was trying to figure out everything else. And just going through my fonts now, trying to find one that works. I thought maybe a nice cartoon one would work, but I'm like, nah, it didn't quite feel right. Honestly, none of these fonts actually felt right, and I've talked about this before, about hand doing my fonts, and part of that is, you know, it just fits in with the drawing more. It's like you're the same artist that did the sketch, that did the ink, that did the colors, that came up with the idea, but then you're asking another artist, well, not asking, but you're taking another artist's work, which is what a font is, and slapping it on top of your work, and usually that works, but when you're as illustrative as this, it just tends to look better when it's your own, at least I find with my work anyways. Your work might vary. Sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes it just works amazingly, but when it's very cutesy and organic, you know, it doesn't take me much time to just write Merry Christmas, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, this card is now at this point just a lot of editing and finicking with stuff. Every now and then there's a design. Some designs come really easy to me. You know, I sit down, I sketch it, bam, it's just done. That's all it needs. And then some are nearly there. They just need a little bit of editing. Like here you can see I'm editing the bow, I'm editing the edges of the gift to be a bit more even. I'm, deciding, does the bow look better when it fully encompasses the horns? Should the horns clip through? You know, I'm just redrawing the bow, making it look a little bit more convincing. I actually think that bow's quite cute there. And then I'm like, you know what, that's good enough for now. I'll have, I've set aside some time to refine it later. I'll do that, you know, later. So here I just grabbed the back of the Krampus card that I just finished up doing, and I'll just copy and paste the file from elsewhere. And here I was like, no, you know what? I'll grab the one from the gay card because that's kind of the original one. and I know the original size, like the size that the gay card uses is the size I used for my cards last year. And sizing is kind of something you want to consider, especially with typefaces and stuff. Certain typefaces you get to know, like, oh yeah, 12-point Helvetica is a little big for some applications, so go 10 instead. But you know, like a 10-point another type, you know, insert other typeface here, is too small and it has to be 12. Some of these fonts I get free online, and the sizing just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or, you know, it's so, when you're working the small, the nuances can mean a lot. You don't want your type to be just a little too big, especially when it's supposed to be reading size. Yeah, so I knew this typeface turned out really nicely on the back of the cards. It wasn't too big, but it wasn't unreadable. So I just decided to grab that and recolor it, and the colors didn't even matter because I'm not working in color yet. And then here I am doing the little back icon for the card. This one I actually changed, and unfortunately I don't think I filmed the change, but basically I'd been struggling with whether to do large antlers or small antlers, and just how, like, with the whole design, the front design, the back, the inside. And it was inconsistent when I drew it here. You can see, like, these antlers are a lot bigger than the one in the front of the card, and the bow's sort of tiny, and I kept thinking, well, is anybody going to know that's a bow? Should I put the bow in front of the antlers? Well, then what are these? Are people going to know those are antlers? If I put the bow behind, are people going to know it? You know, it's just how it is with art. So I thought, well, let's make them bigger. Let's go big and a tiny bow, and I think that's kind of what I decided to go with when I stopped here. But I did come back later, and I actually made all of the antlers smaller, and I just set them inside the bow, and it's not as noticeable. I think some people might miss that or think it's part of the bow, but I think that works better because smaller antlers is a cuter design. And here I did something really cute. You know, I did kind of like these eyes sort of poking out of the dark little thing, but I had a hard time aligning them and making them emote, because obviously Derpydeer's eyes are very, very dark. So, you know, dark eyes in a dark thing doesn't work so well. Also, I did some, you'll see what I do for the inside art, and I felt like the back could just be, you know, just Derpy in the box, antlers sticking out, and then that would be fine. So then moving on, I grabbed this icon, and I'm gonna use that for the inside art once I'm done here. Oh, I forgot the bow. Better fix that bow. There we go. Yeah, just drawing the bow. A lot of struggling, a lot of waffling. That tends to happen, especially with digital art. And me, I don't know about you guys, if you guys do digital art, but I can waffle quite a bit. Because I can fix it endlessly, I will fix it endlessly, which is sometimes why I prefer to sketch on paper. Is you can only do it so many times before your paper wears out, or before you get tired of all the eraser shavings that end up on your lap or on top of your laptop. Yeah, so here I just grabbed the art, made a copy, put it on a new layer, working on the inside layer. The sketch for this is going to be way too thick. The sketch line's way too thick, but it doesn't really matter so much because future me knows that, and we'll just ink it with a finer line. But don't be afraid to reuse your art if you can. You don't have to redraw things for any sort of quote-unquote authenticity as an artist. Most professionals would laugh at the idea that drawing something over and over again just for the sake of drawing it over and over again, you know, is some kind of sign of professionality. It isn't. It's actually kind of the opposite. If you can redo stuff and make it smart and save yourself 2 hours of work, my goodness, you would be so dumb for not doing that. So anyways, here I am using the gift art. I just popped open the gift, you know, the top of it, and started drawing Derpydeer inside, just poking out, winking. Like, you can decide whether this happens after she pops out in the front cover, or if this leads up to it. It's, you know, your choice. If you ever want to make a character smile and you can't see their mouth, just do what I did there. Add, that's the top of the cheek, rising up into the eyes. And that's actually a good way of telling a real smile. Anybody can, like, reveal their teeth and pull up the corners of their mouth, but a real smile is actually in the eyes. Anyways, guys, we're actually near the end here. I didn't think to put up images of the final art here, so it's going to end a bit abruptly again. Sorry about that. I'll do a better job in the next few episodes. But yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a good evening, night, morning, whenever you're seeing this. I hope to see you in the next episode. I hope you guys are enjoying these digital episodes, and I hope you don't mind that I'm focusing quite a bit on Christmas cards. I'm hoping you see this during the holiday season, because that's when they're going up. And but you know, hey, if you want to watch this in April, that's your, not going to judge you, because hey, you know, you're watching my stuff, and that's all cool. Anyways, see you guys in the next episode.